Hello again, everyone, and welcome back to the channel. Today, I am happy to present a new video about the speaking section of the TOEFL. Specifically today, I'm going to talk about question type 5, which is the problem and solution question. Now, as you can see, this is the 2017 edition of the video. Now, question type 5 has not changed in the last 12 months. However, I personally have learned a lot more about which strategies work well for students and about how to get a higher score in general. So I thought it would be a great time to update the video. So with that said, let's get started. Today, as a sample question to work with in the video, I've chosen one from the TOEFL Quick Prep collection. Specifically, this comes from Volume 3. I do encourage you to get the TOEFL Quick Prep collection before you watch the rest of this video. It's available as a free download from ETS. If you just Google this phrase, you'll find it, but I will post a link in the comments below. I think actually having the question and being able to refer to the transcripts of the conversation in the question will make the video more useful to you. But even if you don't have that, I think the video will still be valuable because I'm going to teach you some universal strategies that work no matter what the actual question contains. I should mention at this point, however, that a lot of the practice questions you find online and in the popular TOEFL textbooks are not very accurate. So I do encourage you to focus on things like the TOEFL Quick Prep collection, as well as the official test collection and the official guide, and if you've got some money, the TPOs, because those contain accurate questions which do resemble the contents of the real test. The strategies I'm going to teach you today apply only to real TOEFL questions. If you've got a crappy textbook, these strategies might not work so well. So again, use accurate practice questions. All right, let's begin the lesson. First of all, there are 4 things I want you to remember about the Type 5 speaking question. These are things that never change. I really want to stress that ETS makes a new TOEFL every week. However, the way they make that TOEFL never changes. They design their questions in the same way. They use the same structures. They use the same patterns week after week after week. If you understand these patterns, if you understand the structure, you're not going to be surprised on test day, and you're going to do better. I want to mention 4 key things. First of all, in the Type 5 speaking question, you are going to listen to a conversation between 2 people. Usually, this is a conversation between 2 students on campus. Sometimes it's a conversation between a student and a professor. It doesn't really matter which you get. The strategies I'm teaching today will work no matter which is which. One of the people in the conversation is going to have a problem related to university life. Note that it's always the student who has the problem. So if you do get the professor-student conversation, it's the student who has the problem. Now, I mentioned that it's a problem related to university life. This means something like they have a scheduling problem, there's a problem getting one of their assignments done, they're having a problem getting access to a lab, they're having problem finding a book. It's some kind of common problem that a student would face in the real world. Next, remember that two possible solutions to this problem will be presented in the conversation, but neither is perfect. That is to say, when the solution is presented, the student with the problem will mention some problem with the solution. They'll mention some reason why that solution is not ideal. That's important to remember because that's something that can actually go into your answer. But I'll talk about that a little bit later. Lastly, I should mention that you must choose one of the solutions and support it. I mean, you have to choose which solution you think is best, and you have to state why you think it's best. I hate to sound like a broken record, but I do want to repeat that these four things are true week after week after week. This is going to be the case on your TOEFL. Maybe you're taking it tomorrow. Maybe you're taking it next month. But these four things are going to be relevant, and this is how your question is going to be designed. I promise. All right, let's start talking about the specific practice question we're using today. The first thing you need to know about is note-taking. You listen to the conversation and you take notes about it. I want you to take the same type of notes every time you do a practice question. And this is what they should look like. Now, I understand that your notes might not be as good as mine, but use this screen as an ideal. Use it as something to strive for. Try to take notes that look as close to this as possible. Moreover, use these patterns. Use this structure of note-taking. All right. So with this particular question, I listened to the conversation, and the first note I took was about the problem. And in this case, the problem is that he needs to take two classes, but they are at the same time. If you read the transcript, you'll see specifically that he needs to take two classes before he can graduate, but they're scheduled for the exact same time. Then I took notes about the first suggestion that is made in the conversation. And that suggestion is that he could do an independent study with a professor to replace one of the classes. You'll notice that I'm not using complete sentences, and I'm shortening certain words to make my note-taking a little bit faster. You should do the same. Next, I took a note about his response to that suggestion. And that is to say, it would be enjoyable, but he might not be motivated to do it on time. Again, there's a suggestion, and there's a reason why it's not perfect. Next, I took some notes about the second suggestion, which is to say he should take one class at a different university. And then the response, well, it would be time-consuming and expensive to drive there and back. Again, suggestion, response, suggestion, response. And always the response is some problem with the suggestion, some reason the suggestion isn't perfect. I should mention, if you're a little bit lower level, the response is less important. If you're a little bit lower level, focus on getting just the suggestion and the suggestion. But if you want a really high score, get that response. Okay. After I finished taking notes about the problem and suggestions, I took a few notes about my opinion. That is, my preference. This is coming from my head, not from the conversation, obviously. I took this note that my preference is he should complete the independent study. Reason 1, it's a good way to form a relationship with professor. Meeting one-on-one would bring them close together. Very beneficial after graduation and motivational. Reason 2, wasting money on gas is not necessary if he can solve problems on campus. University life is very expensive, and it's better to spend on books, seminars, and clubs. As you can see, I'm using sentence fragments and point form to make my notes a bit faster. You should do the same, and you should also practice that. It's a skill that can be developed. Again, no matter what the topic of the conversation is, no matter what the problem is, no matter what the suggestions are, take your notes in the same way. Preference, reason 1, reason 2. It's universal. There's no surprises. Go into the test with confidence that you know how this damn type 5 question is going to be structured and what you need to do. So once you've got these notes, how do you actually turn them into an answer? Well, if you've seen any of my videos, you know that I am in love with structure, that I'm in love with templates. The reason I love these things is because you can use them week in and week out. Maybe you'll take the TOEFL 10 times, but you're going to use the same structure every time in your answer. So what is the structure for type 5 speaking? Well, it goes something like this. The man's problem is. 2 possible solutions are suggested. First of all, the man could. Secondly, it is mentioned that he could. In my opinion, the man really ought to. I feel this way for 2 reasons. First, moreover. That's it. You can use this pattern every single time. Now, students sometimes ask me, Michael, will I be punished for using a template that I saw on the internet? The answer is no. It is fine. It is acceptable. I've had students get perfect 30 points using templates. It's okay. Don't worry about it. Now, I think you can see where the notes are going to go in here, right? Here's where you're going to mention the problem. Here's where you're going to mention the suggestions. And here's where you're going to mention your opinion, your choice. Note, however, that there's no room in the template for the responses. That's handled a little bit differently, and I'm going to get to that later. So, we've got our notes, we've got our template. Let's see how this would work in a real answer. Here it is. I wrote this one. It's kind of long. Another comment I get in the videos is, I can't possibly make an answer as long as yours. I understand, that's fine. Make it shorter. Shorten it if necessary. As you do your practice answers, you're going to get a feel for how much you're capable of saying in 60 seconds. So just shorten it. Here's where I talk about the problem. This could be shortened down significantly. Here's where I talk about my reasons. I could cut this in half. I'm still following the template, but I just make it a little bit shorter. All right, I am actually going to read the answer and I'm going to time it just to make sure that I can get all of this done in 60 seconds. I better take a drink of water and catch my breath. After I finished reading it, I'm going to talk a little bit more about some of the choices I made and some of the details I included. But first of all, let's just hear the answer. Here goes. The man's problem is that he needs to complete 2 more classes before graduation, but they are scheduled for the same time. 2 possible solutions are suggested. First of all, the man could replace one of the classes with an independent study project. Secondly, it is mentioned that he could take one of the classes at a different campus. In my opinion, the man really ought to do the independent study. I feel this way for 2 reasons. First of all, he would form a meaningful relationship with a professor. Meeting regularly on a one-on-one basis would bring them very close together. This relationship would be very beneficial even after his graduation, and therefore he would stay motivated. Moreover, it is foolish to waste money driving to another campus. University is very expensive, and he should spend his money on things like books, seminars, and associations. These will help him have a more enjoyable academic life. Whoa, that came out to 1 minute exactly. So, again, this represents a perfect answer. You can shorten it if you need to. If you need to take a really drastic shortening, you could omit the actual specific mention of the suggestions. That is something you could cut out. I don't recommend it. I think it'll result in a lower score, but do keep that in mind. All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the specific choices I made in this answer. First of all, as for the use of my time, I was looking down at the timer and I got it just like I wanted to, where I talked about the problem and the solutions for 30 seconds, and I talked about my choice for 30 seconds. That's about ideal in my opinion. 30 seconds about your listening comprehension, and then 30 seconds about your quality speaking. I think that's good because this is a listening, speaking, integrated speaking question. Some of the other choices I made, and I've underlined them here. These things that I've underlined are details right from the conversation that I've included in my preference. If you look at the transcript, you'll notice it mentions meeting regularly on a one-on-one basis. So when I was supporting my choice, I'm supporting it with details from the conversation. That demonstrates greater comprehension. Next, I said that because it would be beneficial after his graduation, he would stay motivated. You'll recall that his objection was that he wouldn't be able to stay motivated. So I'm using that detail. I'm using his response in my answer. He says, I wouldn't be motivated. I'm saying he would be motivated, and here's why. I'm dealing with his objection. Next. Here's the detail about, it would be foolish to waste money driving to another campus. Again, that is his objection from the conversation. I'm including that objection in my answer, and in this case, I'm agreeing with it. I say, yes, your objection is appropriate. It's stupid to waste money driving to another campus. And then I expanded on that by talking about what he should be spending his money on, books and seminars and stuff like that. I'm not just making stuff up. Don't do that. Don't just make up a bunch of reasons for why you picked your choice. Don't use examples from your life. You want to deal with a comprehensive answer that uses details that are actually from the conversation and actually from your notes. That's how you get a top score. All right, that is just about it for the video. I'm going to leave it at that. If you have any questions, feel free to leave them in the comments below and I will answer them right away. If you want to get more of this stuff, I do encourage you to visit TOEFLresources.com. That's my main website. It contains updated guides to every single section of the TOEFL, and you can read like sample essays, and you can sign up to have your practice answers actually evaluated by me. That's for the speaking and for the writing sections of the test. All right, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for watching all the way to the end of the video. I always love when students do that. And come back next week for even more content all about the TOEFL. Bye-bye then.